Between 1968 and 1969, a shadow fell over Northern California. It was a time of unease, of fear, that crept into quiet neighborhoods and secluded lovers' lanes. A sadistic killer began a reign of terror, not just with violence, but with words. He sent cryptic letters to the press, taunting the police, and leaving behind a trail of chilling riddles. He called himself the Zodiac. To this day, his identity remains one of America's darkest and most enduring mysteries. Tonight, on True Mystery, we decode the legend of the Zodiac Killer. It started in the dark, on the edges of town. Young couples seeking a moment of privacy in their cars became the first targets. The attacks were sudden, brutal, and seemingly random. But this was no ordinary criminal. The killer craved notoriety. He claimed responsibility through letters mailed directly to the Bay Area's biggest newspapers. Each one was signed with a strange, unnerving symbol, a circle with a cross drawn through it. His words chilled seasoned investigators to the bone. "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all." The public was gripped by panic. The police were facing an enemy who not only killed but gloated, turning his crimes into a horrifying public spectacle. More than the violence itself, it was the killer's intellect, or at least, his cunning, that defined the case. The Zodiac began sending complex cryptograms, bizarre puzzles of symbols and letters that he swore, if solved, would reveal his name. The first, a 408-character cipher, was cracked not by the FBI, but by a schoolteacher and his wife. The decoded message was a rambling, terrifying glimpse into the killer's mind, filled with boasts about collecting slaves for the afterlife. But it offered no name. Other ciphers followed, each more complex than the last. The infamous 340 cipher remained unsolved for over 51 years, only to be cracked in 2020 by a team of amateur codebreakers. Yet, even this breakthrough yielded no definitive clues to his identity. Investigators pored over his distinctive handwriting, his peculiar misspellings, and the watermarks on his stationery. They had a wealth of communication from the killer himself, but no match in any database. Each letter was more mocking than the last, a direct challenge to the authorities he saw as fumbling in the dark. He was a ghost, leaving only ink and fear in his wake. As the investigation intensified, the list of potential suspects grew into the thousands. Dozens were scrutinized: teachers, military veterans, merchants, even a political cartoonist whose work bore a strange resemblance to the Zodiac's letters. But for every promising lead, there was a dead end. No single individual could be definitively tied to the crimes. The most famous and enduring suspect was Arthur Lee Allen, a former schoolteacher with a troubled past. The circumstantial evidence was compelling. He wore a Zodiac brand watch, owned the same type of boots found at a crime scene, and reportedly confessed to friends. He fit the physical description provided by the few survivors. Yet, after years of intense scrutiny, forensic evidence failed to connect him. His fingerprints didn't match those found. His DNA was not a match. Was he the Zodiac, a master of evasion who covered his tracks perfectly? Or was he just another man whose life was ruined by the shadow of suspicion? For every investigator who believed Allen was the man, another was certain the real killer was still out there, anonymous and unknown. The official attacks attributed to the Zodiac stopped as abruptly as they began. After 1969, the confirmed body count stood at 5, though the killer himself claimed dozens more in his letters. For years, he continued to communicate with the press, his letters becoming more sporadic, his threats more theatrical. Then, he simply vanished. The phone calls stopped, the letters ceased. The terror that had once held an entire region captive slowly faded into a cold and settling silence. Over 50 years later, the case remains officially open. New generations of detectives and armies of online amateur sleuths continue to hunt for the truth. Advances in DNA technology have offered tantalizing glimmers of hope, with efforts to rate test envelopes licked by the killer. Each year brings a new theory, a new book, a new definitive suspect. But the truth remains just as elusive as it was in the 1970s. The Zodiac promised more killings, yet he seemed to melt away, leaving behind no arrest, no closure, and a legacy of pure, unresolved dread. In one of his final, chilling letters, the Zodiac taunted society, writing, "I am waiting for a good movie about me." Acknowledging his own infamy, he seemed to understand that his story would become a modern legend. And maybe, he's still out there, watching us tell it. Who do you think he was? Let us know your theories in the comments. Thank you for joining us on True Mystery. If you find these stories as fascinating as we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more journeys into the unknown.